Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another video. In today's video, let's talk about interviews. What exactly is an interview, and what are the types of interviews, and what you need to do, or what we need to prepare for interview, and what are the things we need to consider before interview, after interview. Let's talk all about this in today's video, since interview is a really important process for beginning your professional career. So for students and for the candidates who are about to get job or about to apply for a job, it's really important to learn how to prepare for an interview. So in today's video, let's talk all about this. Without wasting time, my name is Prashant and you're watching Interesting. Let's get started. The first question that comes into our mind is, what exactly is an interview? Well, interview is a formal conversation between a job seeker and an employer, the one who gives jobs and the one who needs job. So that is about the interview. The next question which really strikes our mind is, why do they conduct interviews? Well, to be simple, they need a candidate who is most suitable for a job. So to get the candidate who is most suitable for a job, they conduct interviews. There are many companies who conduct interviews. There are many types of interviews that most of the companies are conducting. There are case interviews, situational interviews, or a face-to-face interview, or a panel interview, or telephone interview. There are many more interviews which are conducted by a professional companies. So it's our duty to get prepared for an interview. So now we got to know what exactly is an interview and why do they conduct interview. So let's get started with how to prepare for an interview. Generally, interview consists of several rounds. It all depends on the company or the professional company which is about to conduct the interview. So generally, the first round consists of an aptitude round, which is also known as online or offline aptitude test. So what exactly is an aptitude round? Well, aptitude round consists of several questions of multiple choice based, in which the company tries to analyze your reasoning skills, problem solving skill, qualitative analysis skills, or reasoning skills like logical reasoning, or management skills, and a programming skill for a IT or software job profiles. So these are the skills which company tries to analyze by conducting the aptitude round. So what are the things that you need to prepare for an aptitude round? Well, there are several topics which are of elementary knowledge like 8th, 9th or 10th schooling. So it's easy for you people to really get prepared with the aptitude test. I have mentioned a list of topics that you need to get prepared before an aptitude test in the description below. Please make sure you go through those topics before the aptitude round. So once you are eligible for the second round, the next round is face-to-face interview, where you will be facing an interviewer or a panel of interviewers in a particular location or in a room. So how will you prepare for this kind of face-to-face interview? Well, need not worry, we'll talk about this in today's video. Make sure you're watching the video till the end, because in each and every topic I'll tell you some tips and tricks where you can easily ace the interview. So let's get started. Before discussing about face-to-face interview, let's divide the face-to-face interview round into two parts. One is before the interview and one is during the interview. The things which you need to consider during and before the interview. So the first thing we'll discuss about is what you need to consider before the interview. So the first thing which you need to consider before an interview is you need to get prepared with your documents. Well, there are important documents which you need to prepare, as well as you need to keep 2 to 3 copies of your documents like resume, which is really important, and your certificates or your qualification certificate or scholar certificates, which company may ask at any time. So make sure you keep these documents ready. So let me give you tips and tricks to keep your resume really good and effective. Number 1 tip: always keep your resume short. In the sense, don't exceed more than 2 pages, because most of the companies, the interviewer won't have time to go through all your information in a resume, and there are companies where the resumes are scanned thoroughly. So it's really important to keep your resume as short as possible and as crisp and neat as possible. Always mention key points and relevant terminologies or relevant words or relevant keywords in the resume, so that it looks effective and you have a high chance of getting selected for the further round. So these are the tips and tricks which you need to consider before making a resume. The next thing which you need to consider before an interview is do your homework. Well, what does that sentence mean? This means simply that you need to have a good knowledge about the company which you are about to attend the interview. So make sure you remember all the important names like the CEO of the company, the founder of the company, or else the biggest project which they are doing, and the competitors, or else the job profile which you are attending the interview. So make sure you keep these information in your mind before attending an interview. The next thing which you need to consider before an interview is really important is dressing and grooming. Well, they say that, right? First impression is the best impression. That is really true when it comes to interview. So make sure you're well dressed before an interview. There are several tips and tricks which are helpful for a dressing and grooming. Well, number one trick for boys: always maintain your beard and mustache well trimmed and have a good haircut. And for girls, tie your hair properly and have a good makeup. And light makeup would also be good for a boy, because no one would expect your face to be sweaty during the interview. So light makeup is really good for boys as well. And the next tip is for girls: don't wear dark lipstick as it gives a bad impact during the interview. So the next tip is don't wear too much of accessories or jewelries. It is both applicable for boys as well as girls. So avoid wearing too much of jewelries and accessories. The next tip is always wear light colored formal attire, because it gives really a professional look during the interview. Well, these were some tips and tricks for dressing and grooming. So let's go forward and talk about the next thing which you need to consider before an interview is subjective knowledge. Well, this is something which you are already familiar with as a student or as a candidate. It is the knowledge from your previous job, or else for students these are the subjective knowledge which are already taught in your colleges. Well, always be prepared with this kind of knowledge, because there are high chances that the interviewer will definitely ask for this questions related to subjective knowledge. So the next thing which you need to consider is always be well prepared with the expected questions. Well, what are the expected questions? The questions like, tell me about yourself, why should we hire you, tell me about your strength, tell me about your weakness, what is the expected salary. Well, these are some questions which are really important in an interview, and they are going to ask you definitely for these questions. So make sure you are well prepared with these questions. The last but not the least thing which you need to consider before an interview is always be punctual. Make sure you arrive to the destination or the location of interview 30 to 40 minutes before the interview. Why? Well, you can utilize that for 30 to 40 minutes of time for preparing for an interview, or else by building a network by making friends with the candidates who are already there for an interview. So make sure you utilize your 30 to 40 minutes well. Well, these were the things you need to consider before an interview. Now let's talk about the things which you need to consider during the interview. The first thing which you need to consider during the interview is always enter the interview room with a gentle smile. Make sure it doesn't look like a laugh, because you don't know in which mood the interviewer is. So make sure you make the environment really happy with a gentle smile. The next thing which you need to consider during an interview is always be confident. That is something which most of the students lack during the interview. Most of the students really feel nervous during the interview. So make sure you are really good and confident before an interviewer. So the next thing which you need to consider during the interview is always make eye contact with the interviewers or else the panel of interviewers during the conversation. That really shows your confidence. The next thing which you need to consider is maintain good posture. Posture means the way you sit in front of an interviewer. So make sure you don't do things like crossing your arms or else crossing your legs. Don't do these things, avoid these things, because it really gives a bad impact during the interview. So make sure you are open with the interviewer, you sit comfortably and give the interview. The next thing which you need to consider is always have a good gestures while answering any of the questions or having a conversation with the interviewer. The way I am giving gestures while explaining in this video. Gesture means the hand movements while giving answer or while explaining something. So try to make good gestures. Don't make too much gestures. Make sure it looks really polite and good while having a conversation. Making gestures is really important because it makes your conversation really better and more interactive during the interview. The next thing which you need to consider, which is really important, is your voice tone. Don't be too loud or don't be too low. Always maintain your voice in a good quality throughout the interview, which is really important because the way you speak really matters a lot in the interview. So make sure you're modulating your voice properly according to the situation, but don't be too loud or too low. The next thing which most of the students or the candidate forget during the interview is always try to end the interview with a thank you note, which is really important, which gives a positive attitude of yours for an interviewer. So make sure you give a thank you note at the end of the interview. Well, these were the tips and tricks and things which you need to consider before an interview. So make sure you utilize or use these tips and tricks for an interview and ace your interviews. So that's it for today's video. I really hope that you learned a lot about interviews and you're really prepared for an interview. So do your best in your interviews, and if you have any suggestion about this video or any suggestions, please don't forget to comment below in this video. If you like this video, don't forget to give thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for regular updates and regular videos like this. So thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, keep learning.